this is Carmen from Dish. Welcome to my kitchen. Let's cook something. So let's talk about seitan, not to be confused with Satan. It's a plant-based meat alternative that dates back centuries. It also recently became very popular on TikTok because you only need flour and water to make it. With that said, let's do it. So in this bowl, I have 9 cups of all-purpose flour. Now all that I need to do is add 3 cups of water to the flour and knead it into a dough. So it seems like it's a lot of flour at first, but this is actually only gonna be about 4 portions. Fair warning, this is a lot of work, but I personally like to experiment in the kitchen, so I'm having fun here. All right, so now I have a pretty shaggy dough, which means that I'm at the stage where I can start kneading it on my counter. My counter is clean. Something I really love about making dough or bread or anything like that is that at first, when you start to put it together, it seems like it's totally impossible that it's gonna turn into a nice dough, and it always does. So just have patience. So I've been kneading for about 10-15 minutes now, and the ball of dough has turned really smooth and elastic. And the way that you can test if it's done is if you poke it, it should spring back. So now that the dough is done, we need to put it into a bowl of cool water and let it rest for about an hour or 2. So it's been 2 hours, my dough has been rested. You might have noticed a bit of wardrobe change. It's because it's really hot and I was sweating. What can I say? So what I need to do now is drain the water that the dough has been resting in, and then I'm gonna add new water, and then I'm gonna wash the dough. And I know that sounds weird, but basically what we're doing is removing all of the starch from the dough and just leaving behind the gluten protein. So now my water has gone almost completely opaque. It looks kind of like milk. So I need to remove the dough from the water. I'm gonna put it in a colander or a strainer. So I'm just saving this water in a big jar like this. And we wash again. Cool water again. And basically what we want here is we're gonna just keep washing the dough and then discarding the water or saving it for other recipes until the water, it's not gonna be completely clear, but you just want it to not look as milky anymore. So I'm just gonna keep washing. This is my 3rd wash. I'm guessing it'll take me a couple more at least, and then I'll get back to you. So now I'm on maybe my 10th wash. I had to switch to a bigger bowl, and that definitely made it a lot easier because more volume of water means fewer rinses. So you can see the texture has definitely changed a bunch, and also the volume has gone down significantly. All right, I think that that's probably good. So I'm just gonna drain this. And now it's just gonna rest again in the bowl, covered with a plate for about 20 minutes. And while my dough rests, I'm gonna start heating up a broth to cook it in. So I just have a mock chicken stock. You can use veggie stock or mock beef, or if you're not worried about keeping it vegan, you can use regular chicken stock also. And I'm also gonna add a bit of soy sauce, just to add a bit of umami flavor. Maybe just, I don't know, tablespoon, and we're just gonna turn that to medium. I'll cover it up too. So my dough has rested for 20 minutes, and now I need to shape it so that I can simmer it in my broth. So I wanna stretch it out into a rectangle, or oval, I guess. And I'm gonna use my knife to cut 3 long sections, but I'm gonna leave the top attached. This is such a weird texture, it's so strange. And now I need to braid the 3 sections together, which is something that I have a little bit of experience with. And then when you get to the end, you can kind of tie them together. Now I just need to tie this whole thing into as many knots as I can manage. I think I'm only gonna get 2. It's so weird. So that's probably the best that I'm gonna do. Honestly, looking at this now, I maybe could have washed out a bit more starch, but I'm gonna try cooking it anyway. So my broth is very, very gently simmering. It's not bubbling. So I'm gonna put my seitan in there and cover that back up. So I'm gonna simmer this in the broth for about 2 hours to really infuse the flavor. And then after that, I'm gonna remove it and let it cool at room temperature for another hour or so. And I'm gonna store it in the broth in the fridge overnight. And welcome back. It's the next day. I stored my seitan in the fridge in the broth overnight. So now it's time to shred it up and see how it looks and tastes. So upon closer inspection, I think that it's true that I didn't wash out all of the starch because you can see these little lines of white. And I think that that's the starch that I didn't wash out. So next time I'll probably do a couple more washes, but I'm hoping that this is still gonna look like chicken on the inside. So let's see, I think I should be able to just tear it with my hands. Okay. It definitely has like a dense, meaty texture to it. But to me, this looks pretty close to a piece of chicken. All right, so I've torn off a couple of chunks. So I think what I'm gonna do next is cook them up, fry them up so they're a little bit crispy, and then I'll taste them and see how close it is to chicken. So at first glance, these are not exactly looking like shredded chicken, but I think it's pretty close, and I'm hoping that the texture is at least similar. So let's taste a piece. I mean, it doesn't taste like chicken, but the texture is nice. The texture, I was worried it would be too rubbery because the texture of the dough that I was making was so rubbery, but it's actually quite nice. It has a bite to it, like what you would want with meat or chicken. All in all, good. So if you try this at home, let me know. And while you're here, click on one of these other great videos and subscribe for more amazing recipes.